mic here at all.
Oh, is that not on? We got it.
It was working before.
Oh, there we go. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. I want to thank the MFA department as well. They've been really beautiful about helping me with preparing for this, and just want to thank them for being so professional and straightforward with how this thing goes, and everything's going to run smoothly because of that. So I'm going to get right to it because we're starting just a little bit late. Usually what I do when I'm presenting this term, Afriscape, and the other term, visual culture, is that they need definition. So I'm going to give a few definitions for the bookends of this talk, Afriscape Cartography and the politics of the black aesthetic and visual culture. Okay, so the Afriscape is basically a term that I created. And it's a term that came from some of the writings of an Indian scholar named Arjuna Padarai. Yeah, he wrote a book called Modernity at Large. Modernity at Large. And in this book, he was talking about different ways of viewing cultural flows in modern society. And a couple of them were ethnoscapes, technoscapes, and things of that nature. And I was thinking of visual culture, visuality, and African art history, basically, in a more Pan-Africanist view of the world. But I wanted to give some voice to all of the various subjective perspectives of the myriad of African aesthetics and cultures all around the world as they shift and change. And so by envisioning it as a landscape, one can see that the Afriscape can be viewed from varying different subjective lenses depending upon where you are on the landscape. And so I'm acknowledging it as a contiguity, something that has connections to it and commonalities, but I'm also acknowledging the particularity and specificity of each culture. So hopefully that's making clear sense and giving it a little bit. There's much more to Afriscape than that, but I had to come up with my elevator pitch for, for folks to ask, just basically what that is. And then there's visual culture. Visual culture is what the scholar W.J.T. Mitchell calls art history in the expanded field. So what does that mean? It means that we're looking at objects and things that happen, visual events that happen in culture and society with the same kind of intellectual rigor and scholarship that one would give to the art with a capital A. The canonized stuff, and we all know what the canon looks like, right? One of the things that I like so much about visual culture is the fact that it gives some acknowledgement and agency to a lot of the other types of cultural expression in the world. Things that get relegated to being folk art and things of that nature are looked at with a lot more cultural rigor and understanding the subjectivity of the people that are the creators that are involved with making those images and those pieces of art. Now, visual culture is also ways of seeing. Visual culture is also the subjectivity of visuality itself. In other words, people view things from varying subjective views in various cultures in different ways as well, right? And so the visual event can be seen by one way by someone who is from the African diaspora, and a different way from somebody who is coming from, say, Western European perspective, or the standardized, quote unquote, status quo ways of seeing these things. So that brings me to my first slide. Thank you. I would be remiss if I didn't thank somebody else too this morning. I want to thank my wife who puts up with all my nuttiness while I'm preparing for these things too, and she's helping me with this. Okay, so what you're looking at now is called a Kikongo cosmogram. It's called a Yawa or Dikenga, Y-O-W-A or D-I-K-E-N-G-A. And this is one of the central images in this talk I'm going to give, all the way through from the visual art that I'm talking about, the ground drawings, and all the way up until the film piece that we're going to look at the end. And this Central African ideogram basically is the basis for a lot of the cosmology and spiritual belief systems that come out of the Central Congo, of the Bakongo people. One of the great scholars, or probably the most influential scholar surrounding the explication and description of this ideogram is a scholar named Kimwandembe Fukiao. His last name is Fu-Kiau. And this Congolese scholar is responsible for basically having given all this information to other anthropologists like Wyatt McGaffey, most famously Robert Ferris Thompson, and Simon Boki, and people of that nature. And this particular ideogram can be found in a lot of different ground drawings in the African diaspora during ritual, these visual ground drawings in African rituals. It shows up in a lot of contemporary art now because of that, because of the influence of this ideogram showing up in so many different areas. It starts from the right-hand side there where you see this black dot that says Kala. This is birth. And then at the top, Tukula is basically the land of the living or standing upright. This other side, the white mark, is moving into the land of the ancestors or death. This is Luvemba. And Musoni down here underneath this central area right here, this Kalunga line, this is the dividing line between the living and the dead. And this down here is the Mpemba, is the land of the dead or the ancestors. And it's cyclical. So then it starts yet again over here at this side and goes around in that manner. Okay. Next slide. Yeah, this is a Vodun ceremony in Haiti. This particular veve here is for Elegua Eshu, or what they call him is Legba Atibon. Okay. I shot this at a Vodun ceremony in 2003. Okay, where else are we going here? So then, you can see this crossroads motif showing up in the veve, but the secondary reason that I'm using this veve as an opening is because Legba and Eshu Elegua is also the person that opens ceremonies. Yeah. The person that opens the ceremonies and opens the way to bodies of knowledge, explicates the words of the gods and the orishas, the African loas of the African diaspora. And I'm needing to pay some respect, even in the way that I do this lecture in doing so. Okay. Next slide. Okay. I want you to pay attention to this side right here. There's a small saber right there, right? The small saber is a representative of Ogun. Ogun is the warrior of the Loas and Orishas in the African diaspora. And Ogun basically ushers in Elegua at all times in all rituals and ceremonies. This is important because Ogun being this warrior and Eshu being the opener of the way is going to have to do with the politics of the Black aesthetic, as I explain it further on in this presentation. Next slide. Okay. This is another part of the world. This is the pontos escados, or drawn points, that are found in the Umbanda ceremonies in Brazil. Okay. Again, this one's here. This is called a Pomba Gira. This is the Elegua drawing, or one of the many thousands of Elegua drawings found in the Umbanda ceremonies. Another secondary figure that's also important in the politics of the Black aesthetic here is a Shango, the Shango figure. Shango can be recognized from this double-headed axe that's found in this particular ground drawing here. Now, the pontos escados are somewhat different in that there are thousands of these and more being invented as we speak. It's a very contemporary religion, right? Or spiritual practice. And so one of the things that I like about the visual event that happens with the ponto escado is that when an initiate actually draws down this particular ground drawing, they're taking on the persona of the particular ancestor or loa, or orisha that they are making the ground drawing for. So these have a bunch of different ancestors that represent Preto values, representing African ancestors, boiadeiros, representing old Portuguese cowboys, things of that nature. So there's a whole pantheon of various personalities that are associated with this thing, and that's why it keeps growing as the years go on. Next slide. Okay, so there will be just a few pieces that I'm going to show my own work. A number of years ago, I was doing ground drawings myself, in that what I do is I'll take a sheet of paper, go out into the street, and start taking rubbings of textures on the ground. Okay, grates on the ground. These metal pieces here from metal grates on the ground. Some of them will be these working manhole covers and things of that nature. This particular one was taken off of some grates and things on the ground with different cross marks, things of that nature. And this thing here is also for an Allegro or Eshu figure called Eshu Sechi Tumbas, or Eshu of 7 tombs, right? And what I was doing with the installation here is setting up 7 glasses with the 7 drawings in them with the 7 Eshus. And normally these glasses of water represent on some of the other traditions, practices for various, where you put this on an Egun altar or an ancestral altar, and usually they're filled with water. So I took it a little bit different after the title of this particular type of Eshu from the Umbanda ceremonies. So they're not actual pontos riscados, because a ponto riscado is done in a ritual, and an initiate would do a ponto riscado and take on the particular loa or orisha that they're representing. It's a drawing of a ponto riscado, but it's not without the performance necessarily, or ritual practice. In other words, I'm going out into the street, putting my hands and knees on the ground in the middle of the night, and things of that nature, in order to create these pieces. And the actual representative veve, this thing didn't, maybe it did. The actual representative veve is in the lower right-hand corner here, right here. That's the actual representative ponto riscado, rather, for Eshu Sechi Tumbas. Next slide. Keep going, D. One more. Thank you. And hopefully I can get close to this somewhere in here. One more time. Please. Press it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Hit it one more time. And then one more time. One more time. And then press it, turn to the next slide. Okay. Now, during 2008, March of 2008, there was an artist named Casper Banjo from Oakland, 73-year-old artist. He's an elder in our community and lived in East Oakland. This elder, unbeknownst to the police officers in that particular area, was epileptic. And so oftentimes could not, sometimes he couldn't speak. He intimated this to me, probably not too many people knew this. He's a very gentle spirit, and I, to this day, miss him as my friend and as a good artist. He was standing evidently out in East Oakland and was shot by a police officer at close range with an assault rifle. And the community was shocked by this, because Casper Banjo is pretty much like a teddy bear. I've never heard him raise his voice, never heard him argue with anybody. Nobody knew him to ever have had any conflict of any sort with anyone. And the entire community came out near where this police station was and did a candlelight vigil. That evening, I came out and I basically drew this representative ponto riscado for Casper Banjo. Casper was known for doing these drawings and prints with brick walls. And so this area back here in the background is represented, a simple representation of a brick wall. And then of course the banjo represented for him. But the center part here is representing this Kalunga line, and I'm putting this banjo representing him below this Kalunga line that you saw in the first piece, right? So this represents him dwelling with the ancestors in my view. Now, I did the drawing and I left because I was really pretty much overcome with grief about the thing.